Good evening. Tonight, a rare diplomatic showdown is erupting between Canada and a special envoy for former President Donald Trump. This isn't a backroom dispute. It's a public, high-stakes confrontation with global implications. The US-Canada relationship, a pillar of North American stability and nearly $2 billion in daily trade, is under strain. The world is watching as the foundation of this partnership cracks. This is not just foreign policy. It's about the price of goods, border security, and our economy's future. We'll bring you insights from top experts as this diplomatic earthquake unfolds. The stakes could not be higher. This is a story still unfolding. Let's begin. To grasp today's crisis, we must look back. The US and Canada share the world's longest undefended border and a history of deep cooperation. Fighting wars together, building economies, and sharing culture. But this partnership has weathered its share of storms. Trade disputes like softwood lumber and foreign policy rifts, such as Canada's refusal to join the 2003 Iraq invasion. Historically, these tensions were managed quietly, with leaders seeking compromise to protect the greater good. That's what makes the current public clash so alarming. The old channels of diplomacy have been replaced by public accusations and pointed rhetoric. The tradition of mutual respect is eroding, replaced by open confrontation. The US-Canada relationship was built on shared values, democracy, freedom, and the rule of law. Now, many question if that foundation can still hold. This isn't just another spat. It's a fundamental shift in how these nations engage. The unspoken rules of diplomacy seem to have been torn up. Understanding this complicated past reveals the true scale of the rift now opening before us. Is this a temporary fracture or the start of a permanent break? The seeds of today's conflict were sown during Donald Trump's presidency. The America First policy recast Canada as an economic rival, not a partner. The renegotiation of NAFTA, tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum, and public insults toward Prime Minister Trudeau shattered decades of trust. Diplomacy became unpredictable, with policy shifting on a tweet. Canada was forced into a defensive posture, bracing for the next shock. The era left a lasting scar. Ottawa learned that friendship was no guarantee of stability. This legacy of mistrust and vulnerability set the stage for today's heightened showdown. The relationship has never fully recovered. Enter Richard Thorne, Trump's special envoy, sent not through official channels, but as a political disruptor. Thorne, a veteran of corporate takeovers, arrived in Ottawa with a mission to pressure Canada on trade and border security. His presence was provocative, bypassing the current US administration and meeting with opposition and industry critics. Thorne's tactics were confrontational, signaling that old diplomatic rules no longer applied. The Canadian government faced a dilemma. Ignore Thorne and risk political fallout, or engage and legitimize his mission. Washington's silence only deepened the ambiguity. Thorne's public statements accused Canada of freeloading on defense and unfair trade, echoes of 2018's rhetoric. His goal wasn't reconciliation, but leverage. Thorne's arrival was a gauntlet thrown, not an olive branch. The message was clear. The America First movement still wields power, and Canada must take notice. The diplomatic tightrope has never been more precarious. The stage was set for confrontation. The old playbook was out the window. Last week, tensions exploded. The Canadian Prime Minister declared, "Canada will not be lectured by those who seek to undermine international norms. Our decisions will be made in Ottawa, not dictated from outside." Hours later, Thorne fired back, accusing the Prime Minister of insulting Americans and warning, if Canada wants to play tough, they should remember that 90% of their dairy and 75% of their auto parts trade depends on US access. That can be shut off very quickly. Markets reacted instantly. The Canadian dollar dropped and the Toronto Stock Exchange tumbled. This was no longer a diplomatic spat. It was a real-time economic crisis. Now the world is watching. and neither side can back down. The stakes have never been higher. The economic fallout is immediate and far-reaching. The US-Canada trade relationship is one of the world's largest. Over $700 billion in goods and services cross the border each year. Even the threat of tariffs or border closures sends shockwaves through supply chains. The auto industry, deeply integrated across the border, faces devastation if new tariffs are imposed. Car prices would rise, factories could close, and jobs would vanish on both sides. Agriculture and lumber are also at risk. Tariffs would hurt farmers and raise prices for consumers. Trade sanctions between such intertwined economies are a lose-lose proposition. Everyday people feel the impact. Truck drivers, small business owners, and retirees who cross the border now face uncertainty. The sense of ease and normalcy that define this partnership is eroding. Economic tremors are shaking the very foundation of a once profitable alliance. The threat is not just to business, but to the daily lives of millions. The partnership is at risk of unraveling. The consequences could be lasting. This crisis isn't just economic. It strikes at the heart of the US-Canada Security Alliance. For decades, the countries have defended North America together through NORAD and shared intelligence. Trust is the foundation of this partnership. When one partner justifies tariffs by labeling the other a security threat, that trust erodes. Now, defense analysts warn of a possible decoupling of security interests. Canada may be forced to seek new alliances and invest more in its own defense. A souring relationship could mean a thicker border, more inspections, and new vulnerabilities. Criminals and adversaries could exploit a less cooperative border. A fractured alliance weakens the West and emboldens rivals like Russia and China. The security of the continent and the strength of the Western alliance hangs in the balance. The world is watching for signs of unity or division. The stakes go far beyond trade. Experts are sounding the alarm. A former US ambassador calls this diplomacy by intimidation, a high-risk gamble that sacrifices long-term trust for short-term politics. Economists warn that threatening the US-Canada supply chain is self-destructive, hurting both economies and driving away investment. Political scientists see this as a no-win scenario for Canada to concede and look weak, or retaliate and risk a trade war. The silence from the current US administration creates a dangerous power vacuum, letting a non-state actor hijack foreign policy. Security analysts stress that NORAD and intelligence sharing run on trust. Economic hostility undermines that foundation. Adversaries are watching for cracks in the North American shield, the consensus. This is a dangerous path with few positive outcomes. Rebuilding trust could take decades. The damage goes beyond politics. It's institutional, economic, and strategic. The risks are real, and the world is watching. The experts agree the cost of this confrontation could be enormous. The time to step back is now. We stand at a crossroads. The showdown has pushed a century-old friendship to the brink. This is more than a spat. It's a fundamental challenge to how allies behave. The immediate task is to de-escalate and avoid a full-blown economic conflict. Canada must show resolve while seeking off-ramps, including diversifying trade. The US administration must clarify its position and reassert control over foreign policy. This crisis is a stark reminder. Even the strongest relationships require constant work and respect. The world's longest undefended border is a political achievement, not a guarantee. Reckless words and aggressive tactics have put it at risk. What happens next matters for both nations and for the world. Stay informed, engage, and hold leaders accountable. The US-Canada relationship is too important to be undone by political theater. The coming days will determine if this is a passing storm or the start of a new, colder era.